Welcome back to part 2 of our Goldfinger 60th anniversary celebration.
Chris here from Really 007. Sorry I missed the main recording of our discussion, celebration of Goldfinger and its anniversary. But I just thought I would add a few thoughts, which is actually proving to be really quite difficult, because what do you talk about and what can you add to the discussions around Goldfinger, which is rightfully one of the best, or was certainly seen as one of the best Bond films in the series. But just a few things that stand out for me is that, Connery is displaying, new levels of charisma and screen presence and confidence in the role. Clearly this is, as brilliant as he was before, this is where he's really hitting his stride. He is born to play this role. I think he's absolutely fantastic in this. He plays off all the major characters really well, and has chemistry with let's say, with Goldfinger, with Pussy Galore. He's just a brilliant performance, because it's effortless, and I think that's really difficult, and that for me is a sign of a true kind of movie star. What else are highlights for me? Obviously John Barry's score, which is just amazing. I think the themes he uses, particularly when he gets attacked by Oddjob in the hotel room, it's almost spine chilling. But also, again with Barry, there's always a touch of class. There's a lushness to it. It's that jazz background that always sort of can't help but come through. Just absolutely brilliant in this film. The theme song is, again, sort of cliched that Goldfinger is just brilliant. It is bombastic, over the top. Shirley Bassey absolutely just blowing it. Giving everyone, both barrels. It's a fantastic song. Again, might not be to your taste, but it is undeniably iconic. And that's what I think is the main thing about Goldfinger for me. Is it has always been one of my favourites, because it is rightfully, a really good film. Whether you like Bond films or not, this really stands up even now. Seeing it on the big screen a year ago just cemented that for me. It's just incredibly well made, and the craftsmanship, the production design. Let's say the production design is, from Ken Adam, is, I would say, more understated in this. When you think about the really striking sets, particularly in Dr. No, has been is very stylized. In this, it is feels more practical, feels more grounded, but it still has a very luxury, feel to it. It feels like this film cost a lot of money, and it's there on the screen. The car, well, again, what can you add about the car? When you ask, anyone about Bond, that car is often one of the things they bring up and discuss. It's such a brilliant piece of design. I love how inventive it is. It still feels fresh in terms of, the gadgets and everything, and just also it feels natural in the plot. It doesn't feel like it's kind of shoehorned into the plot or into a set piece. It feels like it works really naturally. I know a few people have issues around, kind of Bond, it would have ended if Bond had, whether Bond was involved or not. But obviously he does has impact on this, on the plot itself. He does, turn, Pussy Galore, gets her to obviously swap the gas canisters. So obviously that wouldn't have the army wouldn't have been able to be part of the attack. So he does have an impact. Just because he isn't there to pull the switch, to turn the nuclear bomb off, to me, it's not an issue, in the same way that, in Indiana Jones, in Raiders, Indiana Jones does have a massive influence on the plot. I don't care. I'm here for the ride, and it is a brilliant ride, and it is Bond, and it is smooth, and it is luxurious, and it is iconic. And it's fun, and it is thrilling, and it is all the things that I personally feel that Bond films should be. Incredibly exciting, incredibly aspirational, Miami, all these locations that, it must have felt like another world during that when that film was released. But yeah, so Goldfinger is, it's top 10. It has to be. That my top 10 fluctuates all the time. Probably top 5, maybe at a push. Depends on my mood, but it's undeniable that this is a great film and absolutely well deserving of its place in not only film history but pop culture history. But also, more importantly, in the series, it's an astonishing film that I go back to frequently and find new things that I enjoy from it. And like I say, those things that I highlighted, the score, production design, and obviously Connery's performance is just it's such a gift to the series. But yeah, so they're my thoughts. Anyway, Goldfinger, brilliant, love it.
So the throwing of the hat, how on earth did you get that noise? Because obviously most people don't have one of those types of hats on them, do they, to check whether it works?
My metal rimmed hat. I know, I've been asked that countless times. I can't remember all, but what I can remember is because of my age, I remembered a couple of toys that we had when we were little kids, wartime. And I said to my assistant, go around all the toy shops. I think it's very, very unlikely. But I gave him 2 toys. And to my amazement, he came back with them. I said, I don't know how you did that, because these were way, way back. But very, very simply, one of them was a disc. Sometimes they were cardboard, sometimes they were metal. And the strange way string was put through the middle was we used to hold it in our hands like this and then pull it out. And by pulling out the strings, the disc spun. And it used to go whoosh. Oh, we loved it. We could do all that all day. And sometimes if it was metal, we'd try and cut something on the disc. Anyway, we took that into recording theatre and we recorded it. And the other one was a piece of metal about this long that was twisted all the way down. And then we had a little propeller that we put on the top, and it spun its way to the bottom. And then we used to love this. We used to push it up to the top, and it flew off and it would flow all around the room, So we took that into the recording room, and they followed it with the mic. They're the only 2 I can remember, but there were more. And then I said, we must have something when it leaves the hand, because you need the threat of this thing. This isn't cardboard, this is a metal hat, And we tried lots and lots of things. And in the end, I said, I'll tell you what, let's get a carpenter's saw. And we got this carpenter's saw and we put it like that, and we just twang the end of it, and we said, yes, we got it. This doom as it left. Most people would say, well, I didn't hear anything, but I know it's there.
Many people have tried to involve themselves in my affairs, unsuccessfully.
Remarkable. But what does the club secretary have to say?
Oh, nothing, Mr. Bond. I own the club.
I love that you're telling us that these noises are made by toys, or that you recorded something on a toy recorder, because it's the imagination of that. And when we were kids and we grew up, it was that imagination that we see on the screen and we hear that made us have this imagination for Bond now. Right. It's just so heartening to hear.
It's another ridiculously famous scene, but John Barry's cue, just the triangle and a bit of strings, that's all it is.
Yeah.
And you've created an iconic character just from that. But it's so simple, yet no one else is good enough to think of these things, I don't think.
I think John Barry also made a rod for his own back in this by creating something as fabulous as the score to Goldfinger. If you compare it, I like From Russia with Love very much, and it's all of John Barry's work. But you've got this really lush opening, into Miami, the whole fabulous thing, all this lovely, gorgeous, sweeping strings and wonderful stuff. And there's some lovely melody going on. And he really just keeps throwing the kitchen sink at melody and bits and pieces and chucking it and doing it and really doing it very well. And of course, the first person to ever hear the finished product of Goldfinger was Michael Caine.
Yeah.
Because he was sharing a flat with John Barry at the time, wasn't he? And heard him playing it all night. I thought, so what do you think? Said, oh, yeah, it's great. Now can I go and get some sleep? But the apart from the theme itself, the rest of the score is, and then of course, he set his bar so high then that next time round you've got to go bigger. You've got to keep going in that direction. So again, Goldfinger probably changing the direction of the series completely.
Yeah, you had to wait until Manly Gone Gun for more low key Barry score. No. Yeah, let's talk about the music because Chris's favorite. Yeah, as John already said, this is again you sort of seen as the prototype Bond song, isn't it?
Yeah.
It sort of gives it that up for pastiche, doesn't it? If anyone wants to do a pretend Bond song, it's usually this or Thunderball, isn't it? That they do a skit of, really.
And it's as though, unless it's got the ba ba in there at some point, that's it can't be a Bond theme if it doesn't sound like that.
You want like Down of the Day, that's what you want.
Oh yeah. That's right up there.
Yeah. No, but the idea that, well, Shirley Bassey in particular, but a strong female, perhaps diva or that's what's seen as like the typical Bond song singer.
Don Black said that she should sing them all, if you remember that. But that was his quote. So she should sing them all at some point. And she did do an album.
She nearly did.
There's a perfectly good reason why she shouldn't do them all. I think that's fair. But nevertheless,
Did you not like her all-time high, John?
Well, when she's good, she's good. There's no doubt about it. When she's on fire, she's on fire, and she's done 3 very, very.
Well, and she did Mr. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, but it was.
And
Dionne Warwick in the end, was it?
Warwick. Both versions. Personally, I think the Dionne Warwick version's much better.
Yeah.
Chris, what else did she do? Another Bond would-be song.
She also did No Good About Goodbye, which was one of the potential songs for Quantum of Solace. And if you listen to that song and think about the themes of the film, it is bang on the money and just an absolute heartbreaker that it never got used. On YouTube, people have laid it back to the opening titles, and it works a treat. It's really gorgeous.
Who wrote it?
David Arnold.
It was it's a David Arnold, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, his fingerprints are all over it. It's terrific. He said that it was never for the film.
Yeah.
But he's lying.
But he's being a naughty boy and he's lying. Yeah, he's lying.
we wanted it for the film, but it just wasn't very much of a Bond film, so we couldn't use it.
Yeah. Well, we had something better from this from Alicia and Jack. Yeah.
Thankfully, Jack Black was passing.
Yeah. I love that.
And keep the beans.
You were on the episode.
No. Yeah, don't get me started. It's one of my favorite.
We won't. Yeah, Goldfinger though. You like the Goldfinger song, Steve?
Oh, the Goldfinger song. Love that.
Well, enough electric guitar, right? Yeah. But pardon.
The thing for me with Goldfinger, and I'll just keep coming back to it really on every subject we cover, it just created a template. And everything, and okay, I'm not saying it did everything the best it's been done, but that's because it was doing it for the first time. Yeah. And the song was, you obviously had From Russia with Love, and Matt wrote it. It's a fairly nice tune. But Goldfinger is the one that goes, bam, here we are, here's your song, and there's your template for great Bond songs for years to come. It's just another example of that. And it couldn't have been better. Bond probably carried on because of this film. It became the success it was. Had you kept having films like From Russia with Love, which I adore From Russia with Love, it's one of my absolute favourite Bond films. But I don't think you'd have had a series of 25 films. You'd have probably had 3, 4, maybe 5 that have started to tail off. Goldfinger, everything it did just was new. Not been seen before in a Bond film. It's not been seen before in any film like this, and the song fits into that perfectly.
The way that pre-title ends and the notes come in, and that iconic title sequence. Was it Robert Brown, John, this one, or was it?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He's underrated.
Yeah,
definitely.
So is Robert Brown, John.
Oh.
See what he did there. Wow.
I think you are right. The way that the pre-titles the slam of the door into the music, it just it kicks it off a treat. It's absolutely phenomenal.
With the music as well, like the Fort Knox theme. I heard someone saying it was a bit boring. It keeps going on and on. I'm sure I heard that in a review or somewhere recently. Like it's just
yes, you did.
Yeah. I couldn't believe that.
Was it you?
Was it you?
It wasn't. No. I will never slate this score. I adore this score.
Same people who say Thunderball's really slow because it's underwater.
Get those cliches out. Yeah. Some cliches are true, but anyway. No, but that theme tune is when it builds and then it's tense, and the music when he's trying to defuse the bomb, brilliant. It's all so John Barry.
What kept you?
It's very interesting as far as scoring is concerned, because from a scoring perspective, you have to decide, I suppose, whether to have something in this scene or whether to not have anything in this scene. Do you leave enough just there in the back to give you an idea of what's going on, or do you throw the kitchen sink at it and throw a theme at it? There's a moment in From Russia with Love when he's going through the hotel room and the Bond theme is blaring away in the background. You're going, why? Why?
Yeah.
And so in this movie, they've kind of eased off the whole thing and got this just running in the background the whole time, and then picking up in certain places and dropping back again, and picking up in certain places, coming back in. So it's another new way of looking at doing something that's been done before, but they're trying to do it something differently. And in later life, of course, directors have made it very clear, I want nothing at this. The ideal example of that is when Bond skis off the cliff in Spy. Nothing.
Yes.
No more score. Boom. Silence. Let's just have that. And they do it again in GoldenEye. So all that stuff kind of works.
Actually, I think we mentioned this to Norman Wanstall, actually. The final fight with Oddjob. It's so effective without the score, because you hear that Norman did, the sort of the noise of the interior, and you hear
that reminder that the bomb is still
there, still ticking.
You've got this fight going on, but there's still another threat.
Some of the big sounds they deliberately take the music score out of. So the Crusher scene, there's no music score, so you're focusing on that sound.
That's right, you're right there.
The same is with the Oddjob fight at the end, because they take out the score, all you've got is that buzzing noise of like the machine. The machine.
Yeah. Boom, 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 boom.
Absolutely throughout.
That makes the tension.
That makes the tension. It's like, it's basically that's the soundtrack. That's the score for that scene. It's brilliant.
You're so right. I wasn't sure about that sound, whether everyone would approve of that, because that was the bomb, but I thought it had that bit of tension. And people often say that was a success.
Brilliant.
Because you've got that noise, then you've got the clicking of
the clicking,
And then, so were you involved in when it electrocutes himself, those noises as well?
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's a fantastic, it's a brilliant scene, isn't it?
Yes.
It's just very memorable.
Yeah.
My word.
the sound effects of Fort Knox itself, the sort of the echoes and the metal, and so effective.
It won. I'm thinking right. It won an Academy Award, didn't it, for sound editing?
For sound, yeah.
The boy,
yeah.
Norman carries it with him everywhere.
Yeah,
he loves it.
Obviously, John Barry.
He'll let you touch it as well if you ask nicely.
Apologies, Oscar. No, that's not. It's fair. I always go on about it, but John Barry never even nominated for any of his Bond music. It's
a joke.
Criminal, isn't it?
I think this is such a great score, though. I mean, I like Russia with Love score, I really do, but I think he's trying to find his feet of how to create a Bond score with Russia with Love. Here, he's not trying to create a Bond score. He's creating a score for the film. Yeah. So, and I think that, so you're not trying to find a 007 theme and where to fit it in. You're playing every scene as appropriate. And it just so happens that you've got the king of melody doing this. And this is why you've got pieces like Into Miami. I think I said it on the pre-title sequence. That I'm not going to say it's in the top 3 Bond cues, the Goldfinger pre-title sequence cue, when he's doing it and he's putting the plastic explosive and then he goes, and then he carries on with that. Just such a lovely, lovely Bond score. And then, I mean, they did do a bit with this with the Spectre from Russia with Love, but obviously you've got your own theme tune bit for Oddjob. There's lovely intertwining of Goldfinger theme, the actual theme tune in the score throughout the Alps and stuff such as that. It's a beautiful, beautiful score, and it's one of the best scores to put on a vinyl player and sit back and listen to as well. It's one of the absolute best for it.
If Chris Goldie was with us now, he would say that.
Yeah. If Matrix were here, he'd laugh too. I'm sorry. Commando. As in, it's from the film Commando.
Exactly. It's not a no underwear zone.
Yeah. Hi guys, Really 007 podcast. Goldfinger, 60 years. Oh, what can I say about Goldfinger that hasn't been said before? Probably not a lot, if I'm honest. It's the blueprint. I feel like if Goldfinger wasn't as successful, we don't have as big a Bond community as we have. We're talking, got the car, got the girls, it's got the gadgets, it's got the henchman to the bad guy. It's discovered. It's highly quotable, shocking, positively shocking. And you get, I think Connery just oozes. He's comfortable in the role. You see his first little bit of banter with Q, and just it's my favourite Bond film by far, because never get bored of it. Watched it twice in the cinema over the last 2 years, and I don't even think there's any filler scenes. It's made for the big screen. I'm glad I got to see it on the big screen. And happy 60 years. Congratulations.
You can hear loads of our other episodes on iTunes, Spotify, and our YouTube channel, where we have interviews, special episodes, and reviews of all the Bond films. Simply search Really 007 Pod, and you should find loads of weird and wonderful content.
Right, we will now move on to the villain himself, Goldfinger. So, growing up again, you just think this is a very iconic, fairly, not necessarily a physical threat, but there's some menace about him, the real menace. Hidden. Even though Math, he doesn't. What does he do that's absolutely dreadful? I suppose he does gas though.
He does. Yeah. But again, a Bond villain doesn't need to do the bad deeds himself always. Others do it at his bidding.
Yeah.
So you don't actually see there's that scene he has probably that's the most he does in many ways. I know he shoots people later when he's in these dressed up as an army general or whatever, but just when he's with those mafia bosses and he's like turning the cogs and everything and then gassing them, yeah, it's pretty brutal. But he's an interesting villain because I think people would generally say, I think they would say he's up there as one of the better villains, but I don't hear him discussed that much.
No.
But he's a really interesting character, interesting looking. His wardrobe. Obviously, his voice is dubbed, but his voice is pretty iconic, I think. And yeah, he's one of those villains, and something which makes this. There's so many elements which move this film on from Dr. No and from Rush with Love. One of them is it's not Spectre. This is just one guy, on his own, and I think Bond films need that, not, I know we've discussed it with the Craig films, but yeah, Skyfall was originally supposed to be like Goldfinger, just completely separate. And that's why I think, we don't have to always have those as the villains, Spectre, we can have this sort of one-off different kind of threat. So yeah, I think he's a really interesting villain. Like I say, sometimes, although he might be seen as a bit of an archetypal Bond villain, I don't hear him particularly mentioned all that much. But yeah, I'm a big fan, and often with a villain like this who isn't really a physical threat, even though he's a big bloke. He's got a henchman, and obviously one of the most iconic of the lot.
Just saying about the man getting his hands dirty. And yes, at the very end of the film, he does get out his gold revolver and shoot a couple of the soldiers coming in. But even with the gassing of the gangsters, which is a massive plot point for me and is utterly pointless.
Mm-hmm.
It just renders the whole scene pointless. But it's not him that gasses them. It's Kish that does it with the gas mask underground.
Yes.
So his hands are, for the most part, always clean. It's always people doing his bidding.
True.
He is the power and the intelligence and the money behind the plan, but everyone else is the ones that are actually getting their hands messy, doing the executions. I'm not entirely sure when Jill Masterson is on that bed in the hotel room if Goldfinger is the one laying on the paint or if it's Oddjob and a couple of the other lackeys. I don't think he's there at all.
I agree.
His instruction.
Well, I reckon it's just like the car crushing. I think that is Oddjob takes care of it his way, kind of. But will it be a direct instruction from Goldfinger to do it in that style? I don't know.
Maybe. It is.
Oh, definitely. I think that's got to be his.
My pride in Goldfinger is the crushing of the car.
The car, yes, yeah.
Because the sound came back up in sort of bits and pieces, I started right from scratch. I thought, I think I could do this very well. But what I was missing was the most important sound of all, which was these jaws coming up, doing the crushing and going back. And I thought, come on, Norman, you've got a problem here. Where are you going to get a machine that will make that sort of sound? Anyway, I was working one day, and I said to my assistant, what's going on outside? She said, oh, don't worry, they're doing some maintenance on the car park. I said, yeah, but listen. And I could hear this. I rushed out. I said, what's this machine? They said, oh, it's, they told me what it was. But I said, don't go anywhere. Stay where you are. Oh. I rushed back to find my sound mixer. He said, Norman, I'm sorry, mate, I can't come. I said, we're going to be shooting up for the rest of the day. I said, well, give me a machine and I'll record it. He said, I haven't got any. I said, well, what's that? He said, oh, you can't have that. That's the toy recorder I bought for my son. I said, well, does it record? He said, well, it records, but it's a toy. I said, well, give it to me. I rushed back, and the mic was about that size, and I tried to look very professional. And I recorded it and laid it all up, and I put it on the chart. I didn't say anything, and I waited for them to say Norman. But they didn't.
Oh, gosh.
And I just didn't say a word. And that was my secret for years, that was.
So that remained in the final film,
Oh,
then?
definitely, because it was so powerful, and I love
Fantastic.
it. And the whole, with the breaking glass and everything, I'm very proud of that. But nobody like one of you said, it's just what people expect. That's what a Crusher does.
He will be remembered in the eyes of the wider public because he's the guy who says, "No, Bond, I expect you to die."
Yeah.
And as you've said already, Tom, that is the clip that gets played whenever you talk about James Bond to the wider public. So he gets seen every single time. So, I mean, for me, I don't find him that threatening a villain, but he's good. I think he actually just plays the role as he needs to. And but he will always be remembered because he's in arguably the most famous scene.
And his name is Goldfinger.
Yeah. It's not just that. It's the fact that it's Auric Goldfinger.
Yes.
Auric is a deviation of the scientific element or gold, and it all ties in.
See, every day is a school day.
What he's doing is he's the first respectable villain, though. Like, so he's an absolute psychopath. He's mad as a box of frogs. But before, what we've had is people from working underground from an organization. Now you've got someone who's well renowned. He's at Auric Enterprises. He's massive. You're going into different territory here. So because he's like this massive owner, chief exec, whatever you want to call him, of this company,
general manager,
whatever, director of football, and he's not going to be the one who gets his hands dirty. He's used to ordering everybody to do everything for him. And I know that, Dr. No had dinner with Bond, but that scene where they're having a mint julep and he's just bragging about his plan and all the rest of it, I think that is so in keeping with that kind of villain. An absolute narcissist who has just got complete self-delusion about what he can do. But he's got the finance and he's got the power to actually believe he could pull it off, and he very nearly does. Well, I think it's brilliant.
When they're having the mint julep, he is also putting Bond on display because he knows Felix is over in the bush watching.
Superb.
So we may as well talk about Operation Grand Slam. You're going to die tomorrow anyway. Fine, I'll let you know. Yeah, you're right. It's complete arrogance.
Oh, Mr. Bond, sit down, please. Mint julep? Traditional, but satisfying.
Yes, thanks. Sour mash, but not too sweet, please.
As everybody said, he's always remembered for being the guy that delivers that line. "No, I expect you to die." Nobody's ever mentioned about him being fat and ginger, which has never cropped up. Do you know what I mean? And yet, presumably, at some point during a long career of that, they throw this guy in, this huge character. I mean, he's big, he's enormous, and he's always wearing a hat or something to cover this bizarre hair under it. So there's a physicality to him, whereas further down the line, that would be a scar. Because he's the last one. There's Goldfinger. The next one that isn't Spectre connected is Kananga and Live and Let Die.
Wow,
this is a big leap. Everything else is Spectre connected. So there would be a physical ailment in some shape or form right the way down the line, and yet you create this character, this peculiar looking character, and you throw a peculiar looking sidekick with him that's got hats and stuff and bits, and it's quite weird that times have changed. That would be
well, you could argue that Oddjob being mute is the difference with all the others, or the defect in the personality.
Yeah, okay, maybe.
Just for
Yeah.
Argument's sake.
It's funny because we were having a discussion, weren't we, recently on another episode about I was talking about Dominic Green in Quantum of Solace, and he gets perhaps a bit of a rougher ride with, in a list of villains than. I'm not saying he's my favourite by any stretch, but I think he's not someone who has a scar or a physical, and he's someone who's in that world and everything. He's not like a mad, Joker-like person, and I compared to like Safin, where I don't know, I just think it probably people will end up. I don't know actually, but I was going to say people will rate Safin higher than Green, whereas I think Green he's not like Goldfinger, but I mean he's just a little bit more like that, where it's someone who just inhabits who is in this world, who has a scheme for their own purposes.
Yeah. Would you have liked the main theme to Quantum of Solace to have been about Dominic Green? Where his name is used as the main line.
Just reading up on the character of Goldfinger, and you may know this, but Fleming named him after an architect who lived next door to him and built a house he didn't like. His name was Erno Goldfinger. So that is where the name came from.
Wow.
He was taken to court by
Amazing.
Goldfinger when Goldfinger came out. And Fleming suggested changing the character's name to Gold Prick. In the end, they
difficult to scan if you're a vocalist. Finger probably works better, but I think Christopher Lee said a similar thing, because obviously him and Fleming knew each other through blood, and that all the names. There was a Blofeld. Obviously, it's related to Henry Blofeld, the cricket commentator.
Yeah.
And there was a Scaramanga. He met a Scaramanga, and he met a Goldfinger. So they were all people that were at school. With a shocking time to go to school. Terrible villains about them. All the people that he didn't like, he made them as villains in his books.
He was a Lieutenant Hip as well.
There was a what?
Lieutenant Hip. No, anyway.
Lieutenant Hip, a left hip.
Yeah. Shoot from your hip.
Shoot from the hip. Hooray! Okay.
Chris, you had a mint julep with Bobak at the 007 GBD. Was it any good?
It was. I think it was very badly made. I don't think it was probably mint julep.
It wasn't Moretti, was it? I mean, let's be fair.
Anthony sort of tried to tell him the ingredients, did he?
I think they were well off. I took one sip and my lips went more puckered than a duck's are. Well,
did you say to the guy behind the bar, look, just maybe a little less iron brew?
Yeah,
on this occasion?
Very tart. Yes.
Yeah, tart for you. Yes, very tart.
Tart for me.
Yeah, it looks lovely in the film, though, doesn't it?
It looks great in the film, but at the party, it was not served in any way remotely looking like it did in the film. But yeah,
the correct room temperature.
Yeah, it was a no.
Hey folks, it's Kevin here at Bond in Colour, just adding my thoughts to Goldfinger and the 60th anniversary. What can you say about Goldfinger that hasn't been said? For me, it was the definitive Bond movie. It was the one that replenished my love with the franchise over 30 odd years ago on VHS. It's the movie that had everything for everybody in a way. It had the Aston Martin, the Golden Girl, the briefing scene from Q, Dining with M. It had Goldfinger, it had a henchman in Oddjob, a dangerous bowler hat. It had a flying circus. It had Fort Knox. It has so many elements of it. So it is the one, I suppose, that we all love, adore, and yes, while it might be showing its age a little bit, and let's face it, not many people get away with it by the time they hit 60. It still is a go-to movie for many, and the one that sets the template so much today with it. I do want to share one quick thought here, which is actually from the time. I found the review from the Irish Times, Fergus Lenihan, who was reviewing movies at the time, who likened Goldfinger to a Tom and Jerry cartoon in that Bond keeps surviving and doesn't seem to be injured or wounded and gets away with it and comes back for another adventure. And what he said was that, to quote him here, that What saves the day, of course, is the combination of money and self-mockery, both of which are again exploited with high cunning in Goldfinger. Basically, it's not a thriller as so much a comedy, with a highly accomplished deadpan clown in Sean Connery as its star. In this episode, he pits himself against the master criminal, mad of course as he says himself, who is attempting to break into Fort Knox and make all the gold there radioactive. In the course of his adventures, he drives a high-speed, all-gimmick sports car, nearly gets sawn in half lengthways, beats and gets beaten at least half a dozen times, and deals with a number of women rather more dispassionately than he does with his clothes. The settings are, of course, a materialist's dream, and since most of us these days, this is 1964, are materially minded, they hardly ever fail to please. All in all, indeed, it would be a sad person who could get no enjoyment from this film, which, as the weekend cues testify, needs no praise from me anyway. Happy birthday, Goldfinger.
If that's his original ball, I'm Arnold Palmer.
It isn't.
How do you know?
I'm standing on it.
Why, you crafty old...
Leave it.
The ball you found, sir?
Yes, Lazenja 7. Let's have a little fun with Mr. Goldfinger.
Like me to mark it or knock it in? Mm-hmm. Play it. This for a half.
That's right. One to go. That'll be the clincher.
Fine.
Did you switch him, sir?
Uh-huh.
Then we've got him.
If he doesn't notice a switch.
It's your honor, sir.
It's all right.
Down in 5.
I have to sink this to have the game, right? Yeah. You win, Goldfinger.
It seems I'm too good for you.
You play a Slazenger 1, don't you?
Yes, why?
This is a Slazenger 7. Here's my Penfold Hearts. Well, you must have played the wrong ball somewhere on the 18th fairway. We are playing strict rules, so I'm afraid you lose the hole and the match.
That's it for part 2 of our Goldfinger 60th anniversary celebration, but stay tuned for part 3.